Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 56 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Here we go.
Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Have you got a health issue that just won't go away no matter what you try? Then welcome to the Revive Yourself podcast, where we reveal the secrets to long-lasting health by getting to the root cause of problems that no one else is talking about. So you can have more energy, clear skin, healthier hair, a leaner physique, more confidence, and most importantly, do the things you love and live the life you deserve. Here's your host, Ryan Martin.
So guys, welcome to episode 57 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Hope you're all well and good. I know last week's show was a little bit of a different vibe, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to be bringing you more shows like that as well, diving into self-development, different things that we can do as well, because when you're living the alternative life, you know, it's great. Focusing on health but and certain nutrients and certain things we can do is phenomenal. But health is all-encompassing, as I always say, it's a holistic thing. So talking about finances and self-development is huge because it all plays a part. You know, dreams and values are all part of the health philosophy. So we'll be delving into that a lot. And last week's show with Dominic Reynolds was brilliant, all about cryptocurrency. Now, as always, guys, lots of different emails coming through to www.reviveyourself.co. Lots of you on the 4-day mini course that you're all enjoying, which is good. And as I said, anyone with health issues that you may need help with, then you can go to the contact tab on there and fill out a form, and I'll get back to you, or you can hit me up with an email at ryan@reviveyourself.co. If you're having any problems with the links, come to book in your free call with us and give me a shout. I think it's been sorted out now. We had a little bit of an issue. I don't know why, ghost in the machine and all that. These things happen, but it should all be sorted out. Anyway, on to today's show with Warren Williams. Now, Warren, he's returning. He's been a guest before, and we've talked extensively about health, but he's going to be someone I get on regularly because the discussions we have and conversations we have are brilliant, and we just bounce off each other. And he's someone that I use myself as we go into the show, who looks at my structural alignment. It's someone I trust implicitly. He's a CHEK Level 4 student, and we've actually got Paul CHEK coming on the show shortly, which I can't wait for. But this episode with Warren, we go into your injuries and why, you know, you might have a knee injury, but that might not be the root of the problem. We go into why this is. We talk all about values and dreams. We talk about science and why, you know, it isn't the be all and end all. In fact, a lot of the time it can be counterintuitive to follow it. And we talk a lot. We cover a lot of different subjects. So it's a really fun episode. Really looking forward to listening to it. So enjoy. And without further ado, here's Warren. So Warren, welcome back to the show. And how are you doing today, mate?
Yeah. I'm good. Finally, in the UK, we have a little bit of sunshine, so yeah, things are looking up.
Yeah, no, we do actually have a bit of sunshine because when this goes out, it might be a couple of weeks, but we just had about 3 or 4 days of snow, right, over the weekend, and you know, snow for me belongs on the mountains when you're skiing, or in that scene, because otherwise in England it just ruins everything. You know, you can't drive, everything just comes to a halt.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just the wrong time of year. So, you know, spring needs to start. You know, just needs to get into full gear, man. Jeez. Yeah,
100%. You know, it's March. Yeah, end of. I mean, it was the equinox, wasn't it? Yesterday. It's just changing over to midpoint of the season. It's the first day of spring.
Yeah,
day of spring.
Exactly. I know. Fortunately, it's been the first day of spring with a bit of sunshine. It would have been crazy if it was the first day of spring and we still had snow. That would have been nuts.
Yeah, a bit of sun. It's always good, and I look forward to it so much when the nights start getting longer. 4 o'clock darkness is. I mean, no matter how upbeat you are, and I'm lucky enough, so you probably see the sun in the daytime, but it's not fun, right? Compared to, it's almost like the day's twice as long. If you're getting up at 8 and it's dark, and you're getting in at 4 and it's dark, 8 hours of sun, 8 hours of light, compared to 4 o'clock in the morning in the summer, about 10 o'clock at night, so 18 hours. The day is almost double. It's more than twice as long.
Yeah,
exactly. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and when I was teaching a course last week, one of the guys came over from Norway, and he was just talking about there's a certain part of Norway which is closer to Alaska, and you know they hardly have any sunlight. There's a period of time later in the year where I think they only have 4 hours of sunlight for about 7 or 8 months, and apparently it's the part of the world that has the highest rate of suicide and depression because they just don't have the sunlight. So you definitely, I mean, once you see the sunlight, I mean, even Canada is colder than the UK. But a woman that I knew that lived there said that Canada actually has 300 days a year of sunlight. So even though it's colder, it has sunlight. Whereas she told me that the UK on average has 74 days of sunlight.
74?
Yeah, days of sunlight, yeah.
That's amazing.
When you think about it, it's quite depressing. So, yeah, definitely it's good to have the sun out. You know, it makes people feel like they want to move more, and that's obviously something that's beneficial for humans, as we know, to move more often. So, yeah.
Well, it's weird because when you go away on holiday, I mean, to be fair, it's just like if you get home and it's dark, you sort of settle in. Whereas if you get home and it's light, you can get in the garden, you might go for a game of tennis, you might go for a run in the forest. You know, you see people because it's just the days longer and you feel like you're doing stuff. I know winter is for hibernating, but it's like it's weird. Like when you go on holiday, but if you go away now to a hot climate, and you can even like I might go for dinner, and it's generally later, depending on where it's the continent, eat a bit later, and you might walk there and you walk back, and you're walking back, and you're like, oh, I'm walking back. It's 10 o'clock at night. When do you generally do that in the winter at home? You don't. You're in house and you're in bed, or like you're watching TV or whatever you're doing, and so or reading a book or whatever it is, but it's just added. As you say, you're out more, you're getting more exercise, and it's just. That's why the countries, I suppose, like Australia, that have sun all year round, there, the outdoors culture, it's brilliant for people's health, right?
Yeah, and actually, just because it's good that you brought up the word hibernation, because I suppose that's relative to what we're kind of talking about. But you know, with the 4 phases or the 4 seasons, when you're talking about movement and people being in the hibernation stage, normally when you look at the 4 seasons and how it's structured for daily living, spring is the kind of fruiting stage where you're in a preparation. And then summer is the action phase. And then autumn is the celebration stage. And then winter is the resting stage. So it is typical that we're just coming out of being in this restful stage and moving into this fruiting stage where we start to prepare things. So you see typically people start to get back into their health and take things seriously and want to get back outside because they're in that preparation stage. And then when the summer is there and there's more sunlight, now they're in their action stage and they're fully into the swing. That's why we know some people are only exercising in summer. And then when it comes to winter, they stay inside and hibernate. And that's typically the model that we're supposed to have. So when we look at people in the Western world, most people are in this do stage of their life. They're constantly doing and just burning themselves out. And as you know, people with adrenaline and adrenal fatigue and stuff like that. And that's because they don't actually have a symbolic version of winter, which is where they actually take time off and recuperate and then heal and then go back to their fruiting stage and preparation and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of interesting when you look at the seasons like that and you actually look at people and see how most of the time they're in this action phase or they're in a stage of apathy. And, you know, one of the things I always teach people is, you know, all of our polarities are yin and yang. And people think that yin and yang are opposites, and they're not. They're different polarities of the same thing. So I always say to people, yang, which is action, at its extreme end becomes yin, and yin is rest. So if you think about somebody that is doing all the time, or someone that trains, you know, every single day and never takes a day off, eventually you keep training like that, your body will shut down and it'll force you into yin. Mm-hmm. So yin becomes yang. If you were to train or try to run non-stop as hard as you can non-stop, that's an action, that's a yang. Mm-hmm. But eventually your body will shut down and you'll have to rest, that's yin. Mm-hmm. So yang becomes yin and yin becomes yang. So if somebody's too sedentary and doesn't move enough, the first thing they want to do if they've sat for a long period of time is they'll say, you know what, I think I want to get up and move and stretch my body because I feel really stiff. So that's yin becoming yang. So, you know, it kind of ties into the phases and, you know, natural movement for the body and humanity in general.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, when we talk about it, it's hard, especially when you're running your own business, but the body in general, like spring, as you said, it's like the world, right? We do have it, but I remember, people don't seem to realise this, as you said, but I mean, springtime, it's generally when the body starts to spring clean itself as well, like the liver and gallbladder goes into a bit of a cleansing phase, so it's a great time to do a liver cleanse, and you notice like a few of these things can crop up at this time, and a lot of these, I'd say, well, the parasites that have been running dormant in your body as it comes into the sun's a powerful healer as well, which is brilliant. But, you know, you mentioned there, most people are, especially if you're on your own business, like me and you know, it's very easy to be in that go phase the whole time because it's very hard. Because, I mean, you've got certain projects and you go through them and then you have a rest and maybe you have like a couple of days downtime, and you think, oh no, but I should be doing this again. I need to build my business, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. But you need to. If you keep on doing that, you will burn yourself out. But it is hard because, you know, you always say if you're not progressing, you're sort of falling behind. But you do need to factor in this time. It is hard, but it needs to be done. Otherwise, you said you can't. You said you got water and fire. It's a yin yang. You know, what goes up must come down. You need to have those periods. Otherwise, it is going to be detrimental to your health. And it's something that people generally people learn it the hard way. You learn through pain. You know, you burn yourself out, and then you realise. And I deal with it. You probably do. I deal with a lot of women that go through this because, you know, successful women syndrome, where they're trying to be like a man in a woman's body, you know, and only can go so long. When I mean that, I mean they try. Men's bodies are more robust in certain ways, you know. I mean, women, they can deal with the pain of childbirth, and our central nervous system's just not wired up for that. We can't deal with that pain. But when it comes to just constantly trashing your body, men have got a higher tolerance for that. But certain things.
Yeah, and that's definitely because, and I agree with that. It's and there is a term which you probably know anyway, which is actually called Russian woman syndrome. And sometimes when I speak to people about that, they actually think I've said Russian as in the country.
Yeah, Russian, yeah.
They're rushing around.
So I call that successful woman syndrome. Like they're just trying to be everything to everyone, and they don't have time for themselves.
Yeah. But, you know, when we look at the amount of hormones that women, you know, use, it's far more than men. So, you know, the stress response when the body's, as you know, when the body's trying to get enough nutrients and energy from food, it breaks down proteins and fats to give us, first of all, the satisfaction or the ability to recover our stress hormones. Once the stress hormones are fully abated and recovered, only then will it give you the available energy to the repair hormones. And then after the repair hormones, only then will it go to the sex hormones. So because of that stress effect that we have, men can do more because there's less hormones to be affected. So for women, because they have far more sex hormones, that have more of a detrimental effect on them. So in fact, yes, men can do or get away with doing more because it has less effect on less hormones that they have. So it's not us here sitting and saying, for all those listeners, that women can't do as much as men. It just means it's a greater detriment because of the fact that they have more hormones and how the body focuses on stress hormones as the need to survive.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons why we've got to make sure, especially for women as well, that we do go into this restful stage. As the tide goes out, it must come back in. Everything is ebb and flow. The universe has a way of pushing back. So if you push too hard, the universe says to you, you know what? Okay, you want to keep going? Right, here we go. I'm going to give you back pain. And then you learn to fight through it. And you see a lot of these women that do CrossFit and they just fight through it with sheer will. And, you know, their hormonal system is shutting down. They're no longer having their cycles, or their cycle is affected. And then they say, no, I'm going to push through it. And they use willpower. And then the universe says, okay, I'm going to push back even harder. And then it gives them a migraine, and it pushes back, and it gives them a spinal injury, and then it pushes back, and eventually it gives them a stroke. So the universe finds a way. It's not just for women, it's for men also, but the universe finds a way of forcing us back into our winter. It forces us, but what we want to do is learn to listen to our body, listen to what our body is telling us, so we can actually go into winters when it's necessary. So this whole idea of, you know, the successful entrepreneur saying you've got to put in 18-hour days, those people aren't looking at the health of the body. Their focus is on gluttony and making a high amount of money in a short period of time. But to what sacrifice for your body? So yes, we can be successful, but we have to do it in a beneficial way that we don't impede our body. Otherwise, they'll need either myself or yourself to come and help them with the issues that created the problem in the first place.
Yeah, and it's almost like that. Yeah, as you said, you know, people out there like Gary Vaynerchuk and Tony Robbins talking to people about going on 5-6 hours of sleep, or 4 or 5 hours sleep a night. That's all you need. It's like, yeah, but for how long? Until you do crash, and then when your vitality is that low, people start using things like coffee and other stimulants to get through the day. As you say, the Indians call it like empty fire, and then obviously like you're susceptible to all sorts of disease, as well as parasites coming in, infiltrating your body. It's just a nightmare situation, and when you're talking about there. Women especially, like this is I always say, like this is not. It's what I always say. Men and women are different. Yin and yang, you know, earth and fire. Fire and water. You know, sun and the moon. And people say, oh, we're the same. Well, we're human beings, but ever live with a woman before? Like we're very different in terms of the way we think, but also like if a woman can't get pregnant, I've had people saying it's not just that. No, maybe it's not just that. If it's a small percentage of people, but if you're trying to be everything to everyone, you're not giving your body time to rest, you're not concentrating on your health, and then you can't get pregnant. I wonder why. Your body, the universe doesn't want you to get pregnant because it doesn't want a baby to come into a toxic world, an overstressed body. Can also play havoc with your menstrual cycle. A lot of people on the pill, we get into how toxic that is. And for men, men get so stressed that they either lose their libido, they get erectile dysfunction, or their sperm count lowers to such an extent. So they can't. And then once it's the funny thing. People say, "Oh, it's like studies show this." Well, what studies and who have they been funded by? Because I'm sure me and Warren can tell you quite a handful of people we've dealt with. Once you've addressed all this, it's funny how they fall pregnant or how their sperm count rises, and they can get. And because you're just living in we talk about living in conjunction with nature's cycle, and it's like it's hard, because I know it is hard to try and give yourself a rest. But even if instead of doing 10 hours a day at work, you just cut back to 6. Those 4 hours of rest are going to be huge for you. It'll take care of your body. And for myself, it's weird. Sometimes you do need another set of eyes, because Warren is someone who I've gone to. When it comes to, as a coach, you can't assess everything yourself, especially when it comes to your body, your alignment, your structural balance. And I've had clients that I recommend it to Warren or to other people when I know that. So, for example, I had to deal with plantar fasciitis for a long time, and in my left foot. And I knew, I'm not going to go to the hospital and say I've got plantar fasciitis, them give me some anti-inflammatory drugs to get away, or they haven't got it, or injections into it. I knew that the problem was coming from some sort of postural or structural imbalance because of, I sit at a desk quite a lot. I do my exercise in the day, but majority of the time I'm dealing with other people. I do try and get up and move around, but, we're always doing things that are probably not conducive to having a healthy posture all the time, even though I do try and do as much as I can. I knew it was there, so I went to see Warren, and he found quite a lot wrong with me, right?
I would say it's consistent with what for most people in the Western world have, but I wouldn't say I found a lot, but there was enough to warrant correction.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's important for us to have a second pair of eyes, because sometimes we see what we want to see. And, for myself, I do the same thing. I have to have other people looking at me as well. And, one of the things I kind of wanted to say with regards to some of the things you were talking about with people in general, and them waiting until they're being forced to slow down, and then I'll get back to the assessment part in a second, because I kind of didn't want to lose this. It's interesting, and the same thing for yourself. People always come to us for us to allow them to continue the thing that brought them to see us in the first place.
Yeah, so true.
Makes sense.
so true. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they're like, they'll argue with you, and they're like, it's like, yeah, but this study says that. Okay, well, how's that working for you? Well, it's
exactly.
not. But I already know that. Well, do you really? Because why are you still doing it? Exactly. And say we're coming from a point like, if me and you aren't healthy, we can't help other people.
Exactly.
And I even had this. I've been dealing with a client who's she's vegan, and she said, I don't want to eat meat. I think it's selfish with me. And I was like, well, it's affecting your health. And she was saying, well, I'd rather not be healthy than have to eat meat. And I was like, ooh, that's a big statement. That's a huge statement. I was like, because the healthiest version of yourself is the one that can affect the world the most. But it's like, do you want me to just sit here and say, yeah, I think you're right, go with that, having low health is brilliant, or do you want me to say, well, this isn't the best way, I think you should go forward? But people will, what they want to do. That's why I put a video up the other day saying it, like, oh, Ryan, once I've got healthy, can I go back to eating the way I used to eat? It's like, yeah you can, if you want to get ill again. It's your choice. Like, exactly. Once you've got this, and you've got a weakened constitution, and you're not as healthy as you were, and you say, oh, but other people eat this way. Yeah, maybe they got supreme health, and maybe they won't get a little chronic illness. Maybe they go straight to cancer. Right. So I wanted to talk about the assessment just because. Yes, just because I think it's huge for people to understand. Like, even as coaches, we have other coaches, and when it comes to like the nutrition side of things and things like that, I know I can do. I mean, that's my forte. When it comes to structural imbalance, I can do it, but nowhere near as good as you. And it's something that I can't do myself anyway. I can program myself and go exercise, but I can't look at myself in certain areas because, there's just no way of doing it. And exactly. So sending someone to you, Yeah, so, I mean, it's just something that people need to understand. And I always say, like, some in my programs, even when I had to send people out to other people, like, because I can't do it all myself. I work remotely and I do people online. And if I had to send people out, I've recommended people to you. Unfortunately, a couple of them just want to go down the surgery route with carpal tunnel and stuff like that. And I was like, well, you learn the hard way, but...
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, the problem with that, as we know, is most people don't want to take ownership. And that's the model that people use today, is that they just want someone to take care of it. They don't have to think about it. So, when we as coaches are being coached, we are learning ourselves, and we are learning to do the thing that we ask our clients to do, which is being the example. So, a lot of times people have structure imbalance, and rather than actually address that structure imbalance, they want someone to just cut that pain out of them, and that's just not taking responsibility. So as you know, the way I work with people when I do the assessment, all I'm doing is I'm interpreting what the body is telling me. And by interpreting what the body is telling me, sometimes people don't want to know that truth. They don't want to know what's wrong with them. Example, one of my clients who's now training and learning how to assess as well, but being a practitioner herself, she said she was doing some practice sessions, one of her friends, and he was like the fittest person that she knew in her circle. And she said he had the most imbalanced, and she was so shocked because it's the first time she's doing it. She's like, I couldn't believe it. The person that I thought was the healthiest, fittest person was actually the most unstructurally aligned person. And I was explaining to her, because you don't get injured sitting at home watching TV. You don't get muscle imbalances sitting at home TV. You get muscle imbalances by training in the gym. And I remember someone said to me years ago, the best exercise is the one that you can do with perfect form. The worst exercise is the one you can do with terrible form, and that there are no bad exercises, only poorly executed ones. So what we find is most people have imbalances because they train with poor technique. So the body creates adaptation. So all these people that think that they're fit or strong, if they haven't been assessed, they're only guessing. And that's why it's important to actually have a second pair of eyes that can actually see the ramifications of the imbalances created through what they think was correct training. And if you most of the time have any form of structural pain, that may be seen as idiopathic, that just appeared out of nowhere.
Idiopathic, it means they don't know where it come from. Idiopathic,
yeah, exactly. That's all it means to them. So for all of you guys that have niggling back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, you can't just train through it, because training through it is like smashing a red light. You need to actually get it looked at, because what happens is the stronger you get with the dysfunction, the stronger the dysfunction will settle in your body and the harder it is to correct.
Well, there's two things I want to bring up on that. Actually, there's three things. I'm going to talk about your assessment, so make sure I do that, because your assessment and the way you do things. The other thing is, like, as you say, it's like smashing a red light. It's like the light coming on the oil light coming on your car. And instead of putting more oil in, you just smash the light out and say, look, the light's gone out. It's like, that's the problem, and people are doing that. And it's the same when they start cutting out the stomach or the organs. Because on my gallbladder, I'll just cut it out. What are you going to use instead? Your gut, you cut your gut out, I'm going to use instead of Tesco's bag, Like, what are you doing? It's just, you're just cutting things out, and it's like...
They're there for a reason.
Oh my God! Sorry, you couldn't see that. It was me hitting my head with my hand. Like, it's just like the stupid thing. Don't worry about it. I mean, it's only your gallbladder, or like part of your kidney or your liver, or
it was just a spare part. It's a spare part.
Yeah, just start cutting it out. You don't need that. I mean, luckily the body's so clever it can actually adapt and use other organs to get around this. But by no means is it the best way to do things. In fact, it's one of the most detrimental ways of doing things. And the actual, as you said, you've got to take responsibility, heal yourself, live life differently. And once you do that, like I did a seminar recently, and I've got a couple of feedbacks. One of the feedbacks, someone said, it's heavily biased towards natural health. Medicine these days, we can find illnesses more because we can diagnose them better and we can treat them. And I was like, and they're like, we're living longer. And I was like, are we living longer, or is it just that we're keeping people alive longer on drugs and saving people from car crashes? Also, we can diagnose them better. Yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, all these illnesses are coming from the fact that we're systemically toxic, or we've got imbalances in our gut microbiome, or we've got parasitic infections, or whatever it is. It comes from you being internally unhealthy and externally unhealthy and doing it. So anyway, that comment to me, it's hard for me, because you want to be diplomatic, but at that point you want to be like, it's like I could give you my 10 years or the 12 years of learning, you'd understand how wrong that statement is. But I mean, just for people out there, Warren, Warren's a level 4 CHEK practitioner, and they do. I mean, when I seek out people, I go to the best, because I don't want to. And when it comes to my health, I want to deal with the best, I want to learn from the best, and I want to give my body the best that obviously it's what you can afford, but for me it's valuable to me. And the assessment you do, Warren, isn't like any other assessment I've ever had. And if you can just explain to me, it took 2 hours and a bit, and if you can just explain to people, because you put every sort of different test in, and what you do and what you go through just to people.
Yeah, so the assessment, as you said, you're saying, if you're not assessing, you're guessing. So, the body has a way, as you said, of adapting. So what we do is we do what we call the totem pole. And the totem pole means you look at the hierarchy of control systems in the body that the body prioritizes as more important. So when we look at the totem pole, what we have is the psyche, which is the emotional aspect. So we assess that through our coaching to figure out what triggers people have, what negative reinforcements, what limiting beliefs, and all the sort of things that are holding people back. We know that studies, when people want to talk about studies, let's throw out a study there just to compact this. We know that people that have manic depressive states that is actually reinforced in their posture. Mm-hmm. You'll see people with pronated shoulders, with heads dropped down, with restricted breathing and so on. So your thought mirrors itself into your body. It weaves itself into every cell of your body. So they say that when you smile, every cell in your body smiles with you. So the psyche is the most, here we go smiling. So the psyche is the most important part of the body. It's the highest priority because every other system of the body is reacting to your thoughts. So that's the first thing.
That's powerful.
And the second, yeah, exactly. And then the second thing is the highest control system, and that's breathing. And, as you know, the average person breathes 25,000 times a day. But most people will argue that, what do I need to see for? I'm already breathing or I'd be dead. Yeah, but are you breathing well? And that's the problem. Most people breathe inefficiently. Most people are chest breathers, which means that their neck muscles are doing more work than they should do, which is why one of the reasons why a lot of people have neck pain and shoulder pain, because they're breathing from their neck and shoulders rather than the diaphragm. So that has to be re-educated. If people need to have a look at a child or a baby, and you'll see diaphragmatic breathing. They're breathing from the abdominal wall. But because of this focus on aesthetics, people don't want their stomachs to expand. And all they're doing is just shutting off the body's ability to bring oxygen into the cells. So we have a look at the respiration system. And that's the second control. And then the third is the eyes, because if you can't see, you can't hunt. So as a survival man and woman, we need to be able to see where we're going to hunt. So the eyes will be, one of the most important systems. And then we also have the jaw. Actually, sorry, the jaw is third. So the jaw is the position of the jaw that opens and closes. The average person's mouth opens and closes, 4,000 to 5,000 times a day. So if we can't eat food, we can't survive. I know people can say, oh, well, nowadays you could just drink it through a straw, But in terms of survival, the mechanics of your mouth needs to be able to open and close correctly. If it doesn't, it adapts the spinal curvatures, it adapts the shoulders to allow the jaw to open and close because it's a high priority. So we assess the position of the jaw and its influence on the lower control systems. And then the next after that, we look at the eyes, which we've already spoken about. And if one eye is stronger than the other, it can affect your posture. We know that studies have shown from back in 1912 that the average person has at least a 25% increase in one eye versus the other. So what that does is it forces the head to rotate off its axis so that you look with the dominant eye. So whenever we think about people looking through their keyhole, whenever people go to their keyhole to look through the door to see who's there, they typically always use one eye, and that's their dominant eye. So if you imagine the amount of times you're always using your dominant eye, the head rotates off center to allow that dominant eye to do most of the work.
Right. Mm-hmm. Quickly. So I would, because remember I did this with you, I was turned about 4 degrees to the left, right?
Yeah.
But if I went to the keyhole, I would look with my right eye.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Would
because
it?
You have to turn your head to your left to use your right eye.
Right, okay. I thought it might... Okay, got you.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So after the eyes, what we got?
Yeah, so then after the eyes, you got the upper cervical spine. And as we know, people can die from a broken neck. So there's more nerve ends in the neck, as well as in the center of the spine and further away. So that's a higher control system. And those are like the highest ones. And then the next one down is the limbic system, which ties into the emotional centers of the body. Then the next one after that is the visceral system, which is, as you know, all the gut issues, people who have dysbiosis and so on. And then after that, we go to the sacrum. And the sacrum or the pelvis controls the position of the spine. If somebody wants to know, all they have to do is stick the bum out and they'll see that they have a big curve in their back and then roll their pelvis forward and they seem to have a flat back. So the sacrum can influence the position of the spine. And then the final which is where most therapists start their assessment and end it, is what we call the slave joints, which are the arms and legs. So it's everything else that's being carried along by the body. So the problem is that most therapists are treating the effect rather than the driver or the cause. So people will go with knee pain to a knee surgeon or to a knee specialist, not understanding that the pelvis influences the knee, that the spine influences, and then the head influences the spine, and then breathing influences every structure of the body, and then the psyche influences everything above that. So people are just looking at the lowest common denominator.
Mate, it drives me fucking mental. And so, it's my show, so I can swear if I want. But it's like, I talked to one of my friends a couple of times, and he's like, "Well, the surgeon said this," and I'm like, "It's hard because they're your friends, or people come to you for. When people come to advice, you just tell them it's fine. But when it's your friends, it's like, you know what? Because also sometimes it's sort of, Paul talks about. He says the ego sometimes will go against you just to prove it can survive without you. Their ego, and so sometimes like especially, I'm like, you do understand that's not the root of your problem though. It's like, yeah, but he's a specialist. He deals in. I'm like, yeah.
I love this specialist. I love this
someone knows more and more about less and less until absolutely everything about nothing, right?
Exactly. And, it goes back to this other saying, 10 years of ignorance can override 100 years of truth.
Yeah, is that? Oh, mate, yeah. Just because if 100 million people are wrong, it doesn't make them right. You know what I mean? And this is like the thing with it. I'm like, and we got the surgery, and it's okay for now, but I know it's like when I had mine, it's like cut it out all right for a few weeks, and then it come back when I had my cyst and everything else, because it doesn't get to the root cause of the issue. And like, if you keep on standing and moving that way and doing the job that he's doing without getting to the root cause of it, it's gonna come back, and it'll probably come back worse.
Well, just to jump in, on that point, which is something that's very valid. Studies have shown that people that have the same diagnosis from doctors that have surgery versus those who didn't have surgery are in the exact same place in 5 years' time. That's what all the studies have shown. And also, one of the things that's interesting about surgery is that for the rate of surgeries increases every year in direct proportion to the amount of surgeons that graduate.
Oh, of course. If you've got a hammer, right, everything looks like a nail.
Looks like a nail, exactly.
Yeah? And so. This is why I try. So for my program, for example, we look at the mental emotional state. We go into gut health. We go into just all round lifestyle nutrition. We go into detoxification. We go into lots of different things. We go into energetic healing, like Qigong and Tai Chi. We use breathing. We use everything. But if I need to send someone to someone like you, then I will, because there's certain areas that I know that I'm a bit more stronger in, and etc. And that's part of it. But it's like understanding that. And then my problem with it is it's so hard without being like arrogant and obnoxious to say, yeah, but you're wrong, because I know they're wrong. But sometimes people have to learn it. But also, it's so frustrating when you've got this specialist and he's sitting there with his white jacket and he's like 50 years old, been doing it for whatever long, and he drives a Porsche, and they're like, oh, he knows what he's done. It's like, yeah, but how many of his clients has he actually fixed? And also, as in, like, how many of the clients have never had... It's like with Santi Cazorla, for example. How many times are they going to get his Achilles fixed before they realise that's not the root of the issue?
Yeah, exactly. They're treating effect.
Yeah.
And if you treat... It's like I always say to people, I remember I saw in a film, Jackie Chan film, years ago, and one of those really funny comedy ones. And anyway, there was a scene where one guy in the film lost his keys outside the hotel, but he was looking inside the hotel for his keys. And then one of the other characters came up to him and said, what are you looking for? And he goes, I'm looking for my keys. He goes, well, where did you lose it? He goes, outside. And then the guy goes, so why are you looking for it inside? And he goes, dummy, it's dark outside. It's like, it doesn't matter. Looking in the wrong place.
Yeah.
That's what people are doing. And another thing about surgery that a lot of people haven't factored in is that every surgery is a wound itself. And you can't take it back.
Not just that.
You can't cut something out and then say, I changed my mind. Can you put that back in? You can't take it back. It's a wound itself. And also the diagnosis shows that 5 years' time, you've been in the exact same place as someone that didn't have the surgery. Again, people are just trying to find ways to not become accountable. And animals don't do that. Animals are accountable for everything they do. We think that we're more advanced than everybody else because we have iPhones.
That's what I talk about. That's what I talk about. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I always say, like, we think we're above nature.
Yeah.
And how many times you're going to get slapped in the face until you realise you're not? You know, we've all done it, burnt the candle at both ends, or we've done certain things, and then you realise, like, this isn't working. What else I need to... And instead, they'll be back where they were to begin with, 5 years. But people want a quick fix because they don't want to stop doing the things that are wrong.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because...
And that's another ego thing, isn't it? That's another ego thing. Like you said, people don't want to be wrong. And, you know, we talk about the myth and the counter myth in our lives. And the myth is the story that you tell yourself, and the counter myth is the repercussions of the story. So the story we told yourself is, my life is okay. And your life is only okay until you get cancer, until you get carpal tunnel syndrome, until you get dysbiosis or parasites. And then you have to reevaluate. But because people have been perpetuating their own lie, and one of the things that, you know, we always say is humans are master deceivers to the point where they've learned to lie to themselves, to continue to live in the road of ignorance. So the ramifications is the counter myth. And then most people realize the choices that they decided on as they were growing up are not working for them, like what we just said. How is that working for you? And rather than actually face that reality, which has changed, one or two things happen. You either change and grow, or you go greater into denial. You become better at lying to yourself. And that's what these people that we're talking about are doing. They become better and better at the lie, to the point where they've forgotten what the truth was. And that's what we call ignorance. And you know, the definition of ignorance is by definition choosing to ignore what you know to be true. Otherwise, it isn't ignorance. And that's the same with addiction. Any repeated action that doesn't bring about a favorable result. So people are addicted to their ignorance to continue to live the life that they lived that didn't want them to come to you in the first place, but now you've come to you, just chop it out.
Just chop it out. And it's like, well, as well, because of the way that the world's been set up with the newspapers and the way we've been taught at school, like you go to a doctor, that just like cements their ignorance in place, because they think this is the right way to go. I mean, I went to him for 5 years and it destroyed me. And I know lots of my clients did for 20, 30. I mean, I had a client recently, she was on 45 tablets a day, and she's like, right, what? Wow. And like, now she's on none. And she's like, I put the interview up, Sally, she's phenomenal, and she's done. And it's just like, it's like, because we think that they're rock stars, we go to them, and it took me 5 years of pain to realise, and travelling around and to find out the chance meeting. Luckily, I found, but this is the path I was meant to find. I mean, it was funny, when the student's ready, the master will come, right? But the thing is, with it, because of that, and then everyone else, it says, it's so weird, like, if you're when you're the only sane person in 100,000 people that are insane, you look like the crazy one. And when you're sitting there going, it's funny because even my closest mates, of course, they're the ones that it doesn't matter how successful you are, what you do, they're always the one taking the piss. And then when they start going, oh, Ryan, I've seen your results, and it's like, yeah, they're like, yeah, can you talk to me about this? Or they give you the quick side message. Because when that starts happening, you realise, because other people outside, they respect you, they listen to your work, you do everything, but your mates or your close family are always the hardest ones to. And when they start doing it, you think, oh, okay, now you're starting to understand. That's a big thing. And talking to people like yourself, you know, we always say, like, we always put we get results like another fluke. Like, it's how many flukes do you need to get to people to start understanding this is part of it. And what we're talking about with it is huge, because what is one of the other things? So when I come to you, realise you talk about my atlas. Yeah, my atlas. So there's people out there. What is the atlas? And also, you're not a big fan in chiropractics, right?
That's correct.
Just go into why that is.
Yeah. So with the cervical spine or the upper neck sits on top of the head. The head sits on top of the upper cervical spine, and it's right next to the brainstem. Now, the highest vertebra or disc in the neck is called the atlas, and the atlas and then the axis, which is C1 and C2, are the most important discs in the neck because they have the most nerve innervation, they have the most movement. So think of it like this. The upper cervical spine, which is the 7 vertebrae from the shoulders to the head, they all influence rotation of the head, but 50% of the movement comes from the atlas and the axis, the top 2 discs in the neck. And all the rest of the cervical vertebrae move minimally because the first 2 are the most important. So the atlas itself, this is how important the atlas is. If you could have any one of 100 different symptoms in your body, and they're all coming from the atlas being out of alignment. The atlas can mimic any symptom in the body. It can it can mimic inflammation. It can mimic estrogen imbalance. It can mimic dysbiosis. It can mimic respiration issues. It can mimic headaches, migraines. Tons of issues you can think of because it has so many nerve innervations. If the atlas moves, basically discs can move out of place. And if the atlas moves 1 millimeter, it can compress or strangle a nerve. And that nerve can run anywhere in the body. And because the nerves in the brain stem run directly down into the body, such as the vagus nerve and the trigeminal nerve, these are highly important nerves. So because the atlas is so close in proximity to multiple nerves that are life-threatening, the atlas itself can influence any or most systems in the body. So, that's why the atlas is important to get corrected. And we know that, 70 to 80% of all people in the Western world have atlas issues, which means they're atlas out of alignment. And they're going to people to get treatment, but they're not actually getting their atlas treated or corrected or adjusted. Now, the second part of your question when it comes to chiropractic and osteopathy, why I'm not a fan of those, is it really depends on the general practice. But the general practice of osteopathy and chiropractic is what's termed high velocity manipulation. So when people normally
so basically forcing stuff.
Yeah, crack.
Yeah.
That's high velocity manipulation. And you hear them like they wrap someone's arm around them like they're giving them a hug, and then they squeeze their back muscles and you crack. And people think, wow, that sounds painful. Well, the fact is that this isn't a high number, but the fact is 1 out of every 1 million people a year die from a chiropractic manipulation. So you may think, oh, that's negligible. It's only one. Would you like to be that one? It's still a risk.
No, I wouldn't like to be that one.
Exactly. So the problem with the adjustment is the speed of it.
Right, we won't go into how many people die every year through surgery and malpractice, but we'll get into that. But anyway, yeah. So the speed of it is a problem. Yeah,
it's the speed of it. And also what they're doing is if you put enough force into any disc, you can move it. And what they're doing is using force to move a disc. Let's talk about what we're supposed to do. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to anchor to the person's body and gently allow the body through cooperation to move into its optimal alignment. Therefore, it's safe for the body and it's cooperative rather than through force making something move. So it's like, I'll either find a way or make one. So that's one of the problems with it, is it's dangerous. It does create the adjustment, but it's how they do it. That's a problem. And also from an energetic point of view, because science has now proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that the chakra system is real, because we had to wait for scientists to validate what Tibetan masters knew 5,000, 10,000 years ago, because they've got these white coats on, they've got a button and a badge. We had to wait for them to validate it. Scientists have validated the existence of chakras, and chakras live and superimpose the spine. So if you have a high velocity manipulation, you can actually rip the chakras out of position, and that affects the energy centers of the body as well. So that's a bad thing. So that's, those are some of the reasons why chiropractic isn't so good. And also because most of the time they're treating the effect rather than asking to find out what the cause is from the body itself.
Yeah, and it's something where, I remember when you started giving me an adjustment, it's quite it's almost like a spiritual thing as well, because maybe you're getting ready for it, doing your breathing, making sure your energy is right, so you're not learning off of your energy rather than mine, and a lot of energy healing with the frequencies, like hitting the different tuning forks. I remember my body moving like when I started.
Yeah, you almost threw a kick at me.
almost come through, kicked him in the face. But I didn't know. I was just like, body was just reacting because it was done. I mean, some of it because of certain tight in certain areas, and a lot of us are down the neck, jaw. But I'm working on the program you're giving me, and we're getting better, and I'm going to keep on doing it. And it's the whole point of it. Sometimes you've got to go backwards to go forwards, and there's no point in keep on going. If you keep on going forwards, but say you're going forwards, and it looks to you that you keep on going, but you're just half a degree off, or even a quarter of a degree off. Yeah. Give it a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. You're not just half a degree off or a quarter of a degree. You're miles in the other direction, Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to go backwards and get things right, so I can go forward in the right direction. And that's what needed to be done. And I'll see you in Atlas, and I was still a little bit out, but we're gradually moving it backwards. And the first time I did the march on the spot, I was way out, and then we come back, and the headline. But it's also, you say energetic healing is huge, right? Because the frequency, you can hear it going through your ears. It's something that people don't. It's hard. We talk about qigong and tai chi rather than being like most things are working out. These things are working in because they cultivate energy. But that energetic healing and what you're putting through, like how powerful is that?
Well, I mean, we were talking about people just thinking that this stuff is so out there,
woo woo, and like where's the tinfoil hat sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But yet people accept ultrasound. And I stop people and say, do you know what ultrasound is? Can you actually separate those two words? And they say ultra. And what's the other word? Sound. I said, okay, so using sound to create healing. But because they put it in a little metal display, and because they're wearing that white coat again, which symbolizes authority and God, you accept it. But if you were to see that same frequency in a tuning fork with a person dressed in Eastern clothing or something, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, that stuff is so spiritual, it's not going to work. So the same way how ultrasonic sound or ultrasound can induce healing effects on the body is the same way how energy healing is working, except we're just not using the same type of instruments. So because we know, again, scientifically, for all those people that are scared, that scientifically every cell in the body is vibrating and every cell is broken down into energy, and that the human body, again, scientifically has been proven that it's 99.9% empty space, we know that we are constantly moving. And because we're constantly moving at frequencies, every cell in our body is vibrating at the same frequency. So whenever somebody is dysfunctional, that means the energy is out of sequence with other energies in the body. So before we correct someone physically through structural alignment, it's always a good idea to kind of settle the energy so that the frequency is stable. And then once the frequency is stable, it's easier to cooperate with the body because now the body's harmonized. So that's what we did with you. We just kind of allowed every cell in the body to kind of harmonize at the frequency and to induce a relaxing, healing state, and then adjusted the body in that state so that it settles and it's far more effective.
Yeah, no, it's powerful. And it's a scientific fact, everything is energy when you talk about healing. And it's one of those things that Dr. Emoto, we talk about the water, and how the different energy, right in freezing 2 bottles of water, one got love and peace on it, it comes out crystalline and beautiful crystals and structure like a snowflake, and you put on the other bottle hate and malice and it comes out dark and dreamy. And he did this with water, he did it with prayer in a murky, I think in a murky pond with other Tibet.
Yeah, it was actually it was actually a dam in I forget what it's, some of that Yushiwa dam, but it was the dirtiest dam in Japan. And he had a Tibetan master pray over the running water. And it wasn't like a collected, as you know, it wasn't a collected amount. It was running water in this, Fujiwa, that's it, Fujiwa Dam. And as you know, the water cleansed just with prayer, and that's intention. And that's not woo-woo, because that was proven.
Yeah, he's done it with sound, how certain sounds can make the water a terrible structure, and other ones can make it a beautiful crystalline structure. I mean, it's just all energy, and energy is powerful. It's like when I use this analogy quite a lot. You walk into a room and it doesn't feel right. You can feel that.
Exactly. And what you say there's a vibe in here. The word vibe is sort of vibration. But we're scared to actually embrace the truth of what we're saying.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like you say it, but you don't know the meaning behind it, or it's just like a saying. It's just like saying we say, rather than the vibrational energy in here is not correct, or doesn't feel very good. Or you walk into other places and you go, oh, it feels awesome in here, like what energy. But even go to football grounds, you can feel it, or whatever, when everyone's singing the same. So it is there, but people just don't. They only accept it in certain environments and situations rather than others, which is powerful. I know energetic healing, it's like qigong, it's like they've been doing it for thousands of years in like the Taoists. It's huge. And I mean, when I was going through that, I could feel it going through my body, like the energy, the vibrations. It was very relaxing, but it's very peaceful, but sometimes a little bit eerie at the same time, but it's a great experience. And and so getting into this, getting into that, because it's really important. We want to talk a little bit about, because it sort of like transfers nicely into it, because you're talking about what people believe in their values and how they only believe certain things in other ways. So we want to move on to like one of some of the work you do, which is really, really good. I mean, I do it in our program as well, talking about the mental emotional state and getting people to understand that if they haven't got a dream, if their dream's not bigger than their nightmare, then they stay fixed in that nightmare because they can't see a way out. Now, I mean, how important is that? I mean, having people having their big dream and their values.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't have a North Star, like they say, if you don't know the path, any road will take you there. And what we see today is 90%. And again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but 90% of 95% of the thoughts that we have today are the ones that we had yesterday, but 90% of those thoughts are negative. So when we look at the world, we're looking at the world with people that are holding negativity in their subconscious, but because they don't want to impress that negativity on others and they want to stay in the state of I'm okay, everything's fine, they learn to suppress that, and suppressed energy in the body is stagnant, and stagnant energy stinks. And it holds itself in your cells. And you cannot, while you can vocalize and lie outwardly to people by saying, I'm okay, every thought that sits in your body that you had yesterday, that's 90% is negative, is staying in every cell in your body. Your cells are harmonizing that thought process. And it's one of the reasons why people that have never smoked a day in their life have cancer, but yet they don't understand why. And they can say, maybe I used to hang around with people that smoke and I just had passive smoking. No, that's not how you get cancer.
There was some, who was it? Someone famous. It might have been Noel. Was it? I think it was Noel Edmonds, who was talking to someone, and they were talking about that. And he said, someone said something about cancer. He said, well, maybe, do you think your negativity has got anything to do with it? And he got brought on the BBC, and they were saying, well, you're not a doctor. And he was like, so? And she was like, yeah, but you're not a doctor. He's like, what does that mean? It's like, what does that mean? I can't have any knowledge because I'm not a doctor? And he's just like, and he's talking about it, and he said how, of course, you always say you can eat the best food in the world, have all the detoxification protocols in your house, infrared sauna, whatever else you're doing. You go to work every day hating your job for 10 hours. Yep. That is just rife for disease. Yeah. And so you were saying about the smoking. Sorry, mate, before I interrupted.
No. So, people can get cancer from other things other than smoking. And, everybody keeps talking about science and doctors and all sorts of stuff. And they think doctors and science are God. But someone that everybody worships in that sense is Einstein. And Einstein said, science is the most updated version of ignorance. That's
I love that. I love it. I've never heard that one before. I love that.
Yeah. And it just puts it into perspective. But
it's weird because a lot of the things that we talk about, you get little bits in it, and people try and biohack and all that, and I think a lot of it's like nonsense because at the end of the day, it's just sort of like forcing your body into things. Yeah. But they try and do this stuff, and I think people like Ben Greenfield might pay the price down the line. Hopefully, he won't. But it's like with this, the lot of things that we've been doing, it's been around centuries, if not thousands of years, right? Sleeping, eating correctly. Yep. Getting the right amount of movement and rest and things like Tai Chi and moving and everything's been. But a lot of these things you say like science, it's only been around. Allopathic medicine's only been around how many years, and the most updated form of ignorance.
Yeah, exactly. 400 years, really. Modern science. It's very not even that. Probably I think the mid 18th century. Modern science.
Yeah, what we see today in terms of most of the temples or the white churches, the white bracket churches that have been built.
Yeah. So because of the fact that our thoughts are negative and negative energy sits within the cells, what we're doing is we're walking in a temple, and that temple is our body, but it's housed by negative energy. And if we don't address that because we're so scared to speak out our truths, then those things stay inside our body. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have what we call idiopathic pain. And, studies have shown that people that are sick in the hospital that focus on their illness don't recover anywhere near as fast that focus on health. So we know thought is powerful, and it affects our body. So, this is one of the reasons why it's important to have values. And one of the reasons why people are unhappy is because of the fact that they are not doing what they love. And like what you just said just now, when people go to work and they hate what they do. Well, studies have shown that, again, validated by science, science has shown that, Monday morning at 8:30 is when most heart attacks take place.
Really? Yeah.
It's not just because people are getting hit by buses. It's because people are starting the week that they hate. And so most of the time we are not living in our value systems. We don't have a dream. We are simply doing what we need to survive. We are in what we call the prostitute archetype, which is making money in a job that we hate, but we need to make money to survive. So when we are at that stage, we're not living our values. And like we said, if you don't have any direction, any path will take you there. So you see people that are studying in academically and getting a degree imposed upon them by their parents, and then going and doing a job that has nothing to do with that degree. They don't know what their purpose is in life. So what we're trying to do is get people to find out what their true values are, not what other people's values are, but what their values are.
No wonder they turn to drugs and medicate themselves. They don't know what they're meant to be doing. They don't know where they're going, right?
Yeah, so they take these drugs, as you said, just to numb the pain, so that they don't have to deal with life. But life to most people that live in that situation is pain, and is just something to forget. So they busy their lives, so they don't have to think about the ramifications of not being aware of what they consciously should be doing. So when we talk about core values, we're talking about guiding principles or value systems that people impose upon themselves, that are things that they love. So what's the thing that you love to do every single day? What do you spend most of your time fantasizing about when you were a child? What have you given up to do what you do right now? So you talk to a lot of people and they say, I used to play badminton on the weekends. I used to go out, partying with my friends, or I used to go out to dinner, but I've given that up in the pursuit of making money. So what are the things you gave up to make money? Those are the things that are part of your values. So when we look at values, we're looking at your values in relationships. What are your likes and dislikes and your preferences in relationships? If you're not sure, write them down. And if you're not sure, ask a friend who knows you well. What are your values when it comes to movement? How much movement do you need daily to feel good? And we're not talking about how much movement do you need to drop 2% body fat. What we're talking about is feeling good. What are your value systems when it comes to food? Are you somebody that eats ethically? Do you shop ethically? Do you source your food ethically? Do you care about the greenhouse effect? All of these things that most people are totally unaware of, which is why they live in this negative state. So once you establish your value system, they're yours. So it empowers you, because you start making choices based on your values. And when you make choices based on your values, we call that being proactive. And when someone's proactive, they are self-empowered by their own choice and decisions. The problem is most people are reactive. So they only do things based on circumstance, such as someone will come to you or me because they've got a gut issue or a spinal issue, and they're being reactive, and then they want to go back to the same poor values that brought them to see you. But if they establish good values that are life affirmative, what that does is it helps them to direct their life force energy into a pathway that is self-growing, because it's so focused on what their dream is. And when you live your dream, you're living a labor of love. And when you live a labor of love, as they say, if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life, because it's passion. And today people are trying to find work-life balance because they hate what they do and want to be able to have a life outside of it. But me and you, we have our value systems and we love what we do. So we could effectively work 7 days a week if we wanted to, but we choose not to be, because we have values and we have a ability to step away when we need to. And if everybody does that, everybody's happy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you put that so eloquently there. And also, even when you're dealing with other people as well, when you're dealing with health, you need to step away because you need to recharge your batteries if you're a coach. Because when you look at it, some people are the plug, other people are the socket.
Mm-hmm.
And people plug themselves into us every day. So we need times where we can disconnect and go and recharge our batteries. Otherwise, we'll just be drained.
Yeah.
And so when you're living, but you say I love what I do, and it doesn't feel like work. But bits of it would be an entrepreneur when you're learning different things like ClickFunnels and all these different things like putting code in. That can be frustrating. I don't want to rip the screen out, but then you breathe and you relax and you understand, and it's all part of the growth. It is part of the growth. It's all part of the learning. But I completely understand when it comes to dreams and values, as you said there. So many people. It's why the more I get up, my day generally, I get up, I'll do, and I will. First thing I'll do is. It's why I take my lemon water and a few supplements I take in the morning to keep me going. Then I'll go and spend for 2.5 hours. I do my stretching. I go and do my program, and I'll be listening to educational material. And that's my part of the day where I'm.
That's your morning ritual.
Yeah, my morning ritual. Yeah, so it gets myself set up for the day, and then I come back and I'll probably start work about 11:30. Until whenever. It can be till very late, or it can be whenever it is, it doesn't matter. But that's important for me. But my value, I enjoy doing it, and it's something where it's me putting in the effort as well. You say, hold myself accountable to making sure I'm doing things right, healthy. But also it's like when I go away and I take my supplements with me, that's part of my values. I'm not just going to eat crap or do whatever just because I'm somewhere. I'm going to make sure that I have things in place that are going to do that. When I go on an aeroplane, for example, I take my own food. I don't react and just eat what they give me. I'm proactive in that, is what you say. Probably like you, I take my own food on a plane. People say, you can't do that. you can. I've been doing it for years. And, there's other things, like I take all my creams, like my coconut oil, my essential oils, and probably like you do, that is being proactive. So you're living your values, right? A lot of people either don't live their values or they don't even know what their values are. I think that can be quite a big thing. So, I mean, for people who don't know what their values are, I mean, or don't know where to start, where would you tell them to start with that?
Well, I normally tell people that if they don't know what their values are, then focus on the things that they spend most of their time thinking about. Because when you focus on the things that you spend most of your time thinking about, it doesn't mean that you're actually doing them right now. But you see a lot of people that talk about regret. Oh, I wish I should have spent more time doing this, or I should have spent more time doing that. I wish I had time to read books. Those things that you wish that you should be doing are the things that are most likely part of your value system. And then once you identify the things that you spend most time thinking about, you write them down. And the thing is, people it comes in their head, it pops out of their head, and then life gets back in the way. So if you, again, like I said, if you don't know what your values are, find out what you hate. And when you find out what you hate, write down the opposite. Mm-hmm. So I hate working for someone. Okay, great. You already know that you're supposed to work for yourself. I hate feeling sick. Great. You need to start investing in your health. I hate, I hate working in a concrete jungle. Great. What you're supposed to be doing is probably working outside in nature or working next to the beach or, something like that. So if you don't know what your love is, find out what your nightmare is. What don't you want to happen in your life? Well, I don't want to be sick when I'm 50. Okay. So then do the opposite of that. Like Paul CHEK says, if you want to figure out what you need to do, just do the opposite of what made you sick. Once you do the opposite of what made you sick, you'll know you're already in the right place. So
no, it's not that simple, is it?
And that's the thing. We live in such a complex world that everybody thinks that the answer has to be simple. But like I remember, give you
complex. You mean the answer has to be complex?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, yeah. Complex. So I remember when Paul said was talking about how when he was in Australia, and we're talking about Paul CHEK here, and he was saying when he was in Australia, there was a guy that wanted to debate him who had 4 or 5 PhDs to his name, and he wanted to debate him. And Paul said, "Great, you can get 50 PhDs if you want." And they had a live recorded talk, and what they were going to do was there was going to be a crowd of 2,000 people, and they would have a debate, and whoever won, the crowd would vote for, and whoever won.
It's all video, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Paul says, "I don't care if you bring 50 people. The reason why you can't win is because you can't challenge Mother Nature." He said, "You can't challenge the 4 principles or the 4 doctors. You can't debate water. Yeah. You can't debate movement. You can't debate breathing. So it doesn't matter how many people you bring." And that's the thing. That's the simplicity of it. You can't challenge water. Yeah. How can you challenge that? 100 billion biochemical reactions per second needed by the body that can only come from water. How can you debate that? There's no opinion on that. It's the most important thing for life other than breathing. So yeah, so people always want things to be complex. So, with the values, it's really finding out what you love. And if you don't know what you love, find out what you hate and seek the opposite. And once you kind of figured out what the opposite is, then build values that allow you to do that thing that you love. When you kind of build values in finance, like what's the amount that you want to work for? How far do you want to work from home? Do you want to work from home? Once you write those things down, what type of friends do you want? What sort of personality do you want those friends to be? Do you want overachievers? Do you want people that are chilled out, people that love being in nature, people that are into moving? And then relationships, what are your likes and preferences in relationships? And then the most important one is lifestyle. What do you feel you need to do to be healthy? Do you need to move more, breathe more, eat better quality food? Write down all your value systems. Once you've established that, that's your core values. And then from your core values, you'll be able to direct that life force energy into making love for yourself.
That's awesome. Completely understand where you're coming from, mate. And it's something that it's hard. A lot of people find it hard that when they've got a life that they've made for themselves, or they've made themselves, they've got friends or family, and they want to move, but they feel stuck, or a lot of times they feel like it could either be that the friends hold them back because they don't want to get better, so they just say stuff and that puts them down, because when someone says, "Oh, you can't do that," what they're really saying is, "I can't do that," which is powerful to try and get you back. But also, I think a lot of people think, well, if I start growing and start doing this, I'm going to lose a lot of my friends, and where do I go? So what would you say to that?
Yeah, it's true, as you said. most people are mobilized by fear. So most people don't want to stand out, because when they stand out from a pack, then they're standing by themselves. And most people that have a limiting belief system or are living the saboteur, which is one of the archetypes that we have as a survival reflex, because people don't want to stand out, they feel safer in a pack. And what I say to that is, then you are at a stage of limiting beliefs or disempowerment. Because life is about movement, and movement isn't just about exercise. Movement is about moving forward in life, or growth. And they say, what happens to a tree when it stops growing? It dies. So life is not about stagnation, because everything in the universe moves. Everything. The fact that we inhale and exhale, the fact that a clock ticks and tocks, the fact that the ocean's tides move forwards and backwards, the fact that the sun rises and appears to rise and set, that we get sunlight and dark. It means that everything is moving. So if you're not, by definition, moving forward in life, by definition, you are not living. So I think you were kind of saying this right at the start. So most people are surviving, they are not living. And life means to grow. So to the extent that people are mobilized by fear, getting in their own way, that's the saboteur. But if they want to follow the path of least resistance, that is actually to be in flow with the universe, because the universe is all about growth and expansion. So in order for us to be able to be living easily, we have to flow with the universe by growing and expanding every single day. We study every single day. We grow every day. We learn every single day. So for people that are limited, they have to stop allowing fear to get in the way. And I remember I heard a really good acronym for fear, different to probably the one that you may have heard before. But this guy said, you can either do one of two things with fear. And the acronym he uses is beautiful for this. He says, you can either fear everything and run, or the positive, face everything and rise. And I just love that. And, that forces, people to reevaluate the choices that they're making, because most of the time the choices that they're making is simply because of the fact that they fear change and what that can mean. But if change creates growth, then it's beneficial. And our goal is to help the people around us in our circle. So if we grow, we make our friends grow. And if our friends don't grow with us, if we stay with them, we die with them. So in order for us to grow, we grow everyone around us. Like they say, pay it forwards. If you have your value system, you'll want to do that anyway.
Yeah, and it's saying that you'll meet new people along the way, and you can always have your old friends and stuff and keep in contact, or whatever it is, you can still have them. It doesn't mean you can't go out and create new friendships, create new route, and go back. And it's just, as you say, if you're not growing, you're dying. Well, you just said there, the sun appears to rise.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Actually, I'll just share one thing before I say that. Abraham Lincoln said the best way to help the poor is by not becoming one of them.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So if your friends aren't growing and you stay with them, you're not helping them. Forcing them to grow by growing is a beautiful thing to do.
Of course, yeah. And you challenge a lot of their beliefs and the growth, and it's weird, even with some of the most, it's right, because I don't, all this political stuff, when you get into what we do, you sort of realise it's all sort of manufactured and probably been set out to be this way for years and years, but a lot of them, when you say stuff and they realise, oh right, you said that 5 years ago, this happened. It's they start to even the most cynical ones start to work. So anyway, just for that one, it appears to rise.
Yeah, so this goes back to a lot of belief stuff that we'll probably have to get into in another episode when we talk about the religious belief systems in the world and what's right or wrong about them. But yeah, so we know, and science has proven again, I have to keep throwing this science thing because, like yourself, I just know how most people are just confused and think that science is God. But the sun obviously doesn't rise or set. If you go into space, you don't see the sun going up and down. It doesn't go up and down. It just appears to do such. So when we look at the programming in religion where it says, and God said the sun rises and sets, he had to be on earth to see that, because it only appears to rise and set from standing on the earth. So yeah, we as you know, the planet rotates and spins on its axis as it goes around the sun. It does not make the sun go up and down. So it only appears to rise and set, as opposed to actually we are rotating and spinning. That gives the illusion that the sun is having its sunrise and sunset.
It's interesting. Have you done much into it's something, because I've got Paul on the show actually in a few weeks.
Actually,
I'm going to interview
Paul. You managed to get that sorted. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about. I'm going to go into things like this. I'm going to get you back on. We're talking about religion and stuff. I'm going to talk to him about things like that, because I think I'm not going to sit here and ask him Monday. I actually want to go into deep things and see what he's got to say about stuff, because it's really interesting. Because a lot of it, if he talks about like Trump being the fire to like the other water we've had, it's madness. But but it's like with that, I mean, have you done much? I know you've got to go in a minute, so we're going to shut this off. But you done much into the flat Earth theory and listened to Eric Dubay and things like that?
Yeah, I've listened to a bit of that. I've listened to like Joe Rogan and a few other people that talk about the flat Earth stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been into a lot of that stuff for a very, very long time before I even got into the CHEK stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting for us to talk about that after speak to Paul. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's cool. All right, well, thanks very much for that, mate. It's been an awesome chat. We'll get you back on again. And anyone that wants to look into anything to do with Warren, www.warrenwilliamscoaching.com. Anyway, I mean, anyone with structural imbalances or anything with any sort of pain, I'd highly recommend seeing Warren, even if it means you're jumping on a plane. And seeing him or driving somewhere, because he's going to give you the assessment that no one else will. So, Warren, been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I know we'll keep in touch. Anything else you want to say, mate?
No, I think we've covered it, man. I think, that's all good. Thanks a lot for having me on your show and to share your knowledge also.
No, awesome, mate. And I'll speak to you soon, mate.
All right, peace.
So guys, that was episode 57 with Warren Williams, and we covered a hell of a lot there. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I really love those conversations where we can just bounce off people. I mean, all of our guests have just been fabulous recently. I mean, they've all been fabulous, to be honest with you. I just love these conversations, and I'm going to keep on bringing you great ones, and we've got some phenomenal ones coming up. Paul CHEK in the pipeline, Dr. Hollick all about vitamin D. We've got ones about social interaction with you with Scott Parker. We're going to have some really good episodes, and I can't wait for it. And any questions you've got, guys, just send them over to me at ryan@reviveyourself.co, or any sort of health issues you've got, heading over to www.reviveyourself.co. Lots of articles on there. Got a free 4-day mini course. You can go on there, get for your free 4-day gut revival mini course. It'll tell you all about what you need to do to get yourself healthy. And I said, if you want some one-to-one help, then I'm here. All you do is click the contact box on www.reviveyourself.co, and we'll be in contact within 24 to 48 hours. Also, guys, you can follow us on Facebook at reviveyourself/natural health, or on Instagram, revive_yourself. But yeah, anything you've got, guys, anything you want to talk about, let us know. Let us know on our Facebook page. A little community in there. We've got a little community now in the 4-day gut revival. It's going really well, and I just can't wait to keep bringing you more shows. And it's something that I love doing. These conversations is brilliant, because it just allows you guys to understand that things are never black and white. There's lots of grey, and generally what we've been taught to believe, we always need to unlearn what we've been taught. I went to private school, quite prestigious schools, learnt from, as you say, the best, quote unquote, and I've had to unlearn everything. If I even my degree in nutrition, if I approached my clients with the information I was taught during my degree, I'd destroy them even more. And it's been such a revelation the last 10, 11 years, almost unlearning all that and learning the new stuff that allows me to help my clients. So I've been doing it now for like a decade, which has been phenomenal. And so just love getting this information out to you guys, just so you can start thinking a bit different. And Warren's someone that, if you are dealing with a structural issue, a spinal issue, any sort of injury, he's someone I'd highly recommend you see. Okay, guys, well, that's it for this week. That's it for episode 57. See you in episode 58. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
If you're struggling with gut issues, such as gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, heartburn, and want to finally be able to eat the foods you love without the crippling after effects, then don't forget to head over to reviveyourself.co and pick up your free copy of The Healing Health Paradigm today.